You are breaking. Not because the world is too heavy, but because your foundation is too soft. You have traded your resilience for comfort, and it is quietly destroying you. Today, we don't seek empty motivation. We seek the forge. Here are 3 brutal Stoic rules to rebuild your mind, body, and heart. Look around you. It is the year 2026. We are standing at the absolute pinnacle of human convenience, yet our spirits have never been more emaciated. We hold the entire library of human history, philosophy, and science in glowing rectangles in our pockets. We have engineered algorithms so precise they know what we desire before we even articulate it. We sleep in climate-controlled boxes, walled off from the elements, and have infinite streams of high-definition entertainment delivered directly to our optic nerves to numb the dull sting of existence. Yet, amidst this unprecedented, staggering abundance, you are starving. You wake up with a quiet, suffocating anxiety sitting heavy in your chest. You spend your hours scrolling through heavily curated lives you do not live, constantly comparing your messy behind-the-scenes reality to the heavily edited highlight reels of absolute strangers. You end your days feeling profoundly exhausted, despite having done nothing of true, physical, emotional, or spiritual significance. This is the modern ruin. We have unwittingly become the brilliant architects of our own destruction, meticulously building a prison of absolute convenience. 2,000 years ago, the Stoics walked the polished marble floors of Rome and the sun-baked, dusty streets of Athens. They did not have the luxury of soft, modern despair. They were emperors like Marcus Aurelius, leading freezing, bloodied armies through the mud of Germania against relentless barbarian hordes. They were men like Epictetus, born into the unimaginable horrors of slavery, whose physical bodies were owned and brutalized by cruel masters. They were merchants like Zeno, who watched their entire life's work and fortune sink to the bottom of a raging sea in a violent shipwreck. They faced plagues that wiped out millions, political assassinations, famine, and brutal wars. And yet, amidst a world of unimaginable physical chaos and danger, they possessed something the modern man has tragically lost: an untouchable, sovereign citadel within their own minds. Stoicism is deeply misunderstood today. It is often caricatured as the suppression of emotion, a robotic, joyless detachment from the world. But that is a pathetic lie sold by a weak society that fears intensity. Stoicism is not about feeling nothing. It is about feeling everything: grief, fear, anger, joy, and categorically refusing to be controlled by it. It is the raw, brutal martial art of the mind. It is the cold realization that the universe owes you absolutely nothing, that your suffering is largely self-generated by your own flawed expectations, and that your salvation will never come from a politician, a savior, or a new productivity app. It will only come from the brutal, unforgiving discipline of your own will. Imagine a man named Lucien. Lucien is the perfect archetype of the modern, civilized individual. On paper, he is successful. He makes a decent living, wears nice clothes, and his biggest daily struggle is a delayed delivery package or a passive-aggressive email from a middle manager. Yet, beneath the veneer of this comfortable life, Lucien is decaying. His blood pressure is chronically high. He suffers from low-grade insomnia, staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m. His relationships are wide, but incredibly shallow, built on small talk and shared consumption rather than shared values. His mind is a chaotic, swirling vortex of regrets about a past he cannot change, and catastrophic anxieties about a future that hasn't even happened. He is a victim of a society that has surgically removed all physical hardship, only to replace it with unceasing psychological torture. Lucian's breaking point doesn't arrive in the form of a cinematic tragedy. There is no explosion, no dramatic phone call in the middle of the night. It comes on a random, utterly forgettable Tuesday evening. He is sitting in gridlocked traffic, the heavy rain beating a monotonous rhythm against the windshield. He is surrounded by a vast sea of glowing red brake lights, stretching out into the gloom. Suddenly, a wave of suffocating, physical panic washes over him. His chest tightens. The air in the car feels thin. The realization hits him with the kinetic force of a sledgehammer to the ribs. Is this it? Is this the absolute entirety of my existence? Paying bills, consuming digital content, sitting in traffic, and decaying slowly until I die. In that agonizing moment of existential suffocation, Lucian has two choices. He can turn up the radio, open a podcast, distract himself from the terrifying silence, and go back to sleepwalking through his remaining decades. Or he can finally wake up. To wake up means to accept a brutal, ego-shattering truth. You are weak because you have never demanded strength from yourself. You have allowed the world to domesticate you like a house pet. The Stoics believed that philosophy was not a purely academic subject to be debated in comfortable classrooms. It was a trauma kit for the soul, a weapon to be wielded in the muddy trenches of daily life. Epictetus, walking with a crippled leg broken by his master, did not write essays on how unfair the world was. He stated plainly, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. To rebuild yourself, you must radically tear down the rotten wood of your current operating system. You cannot apply a fresh coat of paint over a crumbling, termite-infested wall. You must smash the foundation to dust and pour new, unyielding concrete." This requires embracing brutality, not a sadistic cruelty toward others, but a relentless, uncompromising standard for yourself. You must become both the hammer and the anvil. You must step into the forge. This journey is not designed to make you happy. It is designed to make you formidable. Happiness is merely a fleeting byproduct of a well-lived life, but formidability is a permanent state of readiness. If you truly want to rebuild your mind, body, and heart, you must submit to the harsh rules of the ancients. You must prepare to bleed out your weaknesses. Brutal rule number 1. Bleed the weakness from your body, rebuilding the body. The first brutal rule is this: your body is a servant. Stop treating it like a master. We must begin the reconstruction of your life with the physical vessel, because it is the anchor of the human soul. You cannot forge a resilient, unbreakable mind inside a soft, pampered, and undisciplined body. The body and the mind are not two separate entities. They are intrinsically, biologically, and spiritually linked. When you allow your body to dictate your choices, when you hit the snooze button because the mattress is warm, when you consume synthetic, hyper-palatable garbage because it triggers a dopamine rush, when you skip the workout because you feel tired or unmotivated, you are actively teaching your mind that it is subservient to physical impulses. You are training your ego to surrender to the path of least resistance. You are domesticating yourself. Seneca, one of the wealthiest men in the Roman Empire and a powerful political advisor, deeply understood the toxic danger of extreme abundance. He had access to every luxury the ancient world could offer, the finest foods, heated baths, and legions of servants. Yet, he wrote to his friend Lucilius, desperately advising him to practice voluntary poverty. Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, Is this the condition that I feared? Seneca understood a fundamental human truth that we have forgotten in 2026. If you do not voluntarily introduce friction and hardship into your life, you will be utterly destroyed when involuntary hardship inevitably arrives. This ancient Stoic practice is called incommodis tolerandis, the endurance of discomfort. To rebuild your body today, in an era of ergonomic chairs, climate-controlled environments, and on-demand delivery, you must artificially manufacture adversity. You must violently shock your system out of its lethargy. Return to our archetype, Lucian. After his suffocating awakening in the traffic jam, he realizes that his body has become a soft, sluggish prison. It is a monument to his own compromises. He decides to implement rule number 1. The next morning, his alarm goes off at exactly 4:30 a.m. It is pitch black outside. The air in his bedroom is cold. At this exact second, a massive internal war begins. Every biological instinct, thousands of years of evolutionary programming, designed to conserve energy and avoid the cold, screams at him to stay under the heavy blankets. His mind instantly supplies a dozen perfectly logical, highly rational excuses. You need 8 hours of sleep to function at work today. You stayed up late answering emails. One more day won't matter. You can just work out tonight instead. This is the crucible. This is the exact moment where the battle for your life is either won or lost. It is not about the physical act of waking up early. No one actually cares what time you get out of bed. It is a spiritual war for sovereignty. It is about who is in charge, the conscious, rational mind, or the weak, comfort-seeking flesh. Lucian throws off the covers. He forces his feet onto the freezing hardwood floor. In that singular, microscopic act of defiance against his own comfort, he has claimed a massive victory. He has cast a vote for the man he is trying to become. But merely waking up is not enough. You must subject the body to immediate, undeniable friction. Lucian walks directly into the bathroom and turns the shower handle entirely to cold. He does not ease into it. He does not let the water get warm first. He steps directly under the icy stream. The shock hits his respiratory system like a physical blow. He gasps, his heart rate spikes instantly, and his skin stings as if pierced by tiny needles. Every nerve ending in his central nervous system begs him to reach out and turn the dial back to warm. Just a little bit of heat, his brain pleads. But he stands there. He grips the wall. He forces his erratic breathing to slow down. He looks at his own shivering, wide-eyed reflection in the fogless mirror and tells his physical form, "You do not control me. I command you." This is the visceral essence of physical stoicism. When you step into the cold, or when you lift heavy iron in the gym until your muscles burn and your lungs scream for oxygen, you are not merely building muscle tissue or improving your cardiovascular health. Vanity is a weak motivator that will fail you when things get hard. No, you are building mental calluses. You are practicing the art of suffering on your own terms. A man or woman who routinely forces themselves to endure the searing pain of a brutal workout, the stinging shock of freezing water, and the gnawing ache of physical exhaustion will not crumble when a client screams at them, when the market crashes, or when life throws a genuine, unavoidable tragedy their way. They have already inoculated themselves against panic. They know what it feels like to want to quit, and they know how to push through it anyway. You must also look brutally at how you feed yourself. The modern diet is a weapon designed to hijack your neurochemistry, keeping you addicted, weak, distracted, and lethargic. To rebuild your body, you must begin eating for purpose, not for pleasure. Fasting is a profoundly stoic exercise that Lucian integrates into his life. When you skip a meal or deliberately go 24 hours without food, you feel the sharp, undeniable pang of hunger. The body demands sustenance. It throws a physiological tantrum. You get a headache. You get irritable. By ignoring it, by looking at that hunger and saying, "I acknowledge you, I feel you, but I will not obey you," you are re-establishing the proper hierarchy of your being. Mind over matter, spirit over flesh. The brutal reality is that your body is currently a graveyard of unfulfilled potential. It was brilliantly designed by nature to run, climb, lift, endure, and fight. Instead, it is hunched over a glowing rectangle for 10 hours a day, deteriorating in real time. You are suffering from the disease of civilization, and the only cure is voluntary hardship. If you want to rebuild yourself, you must declare total war on your own softness. Sweat is the tears of your weakness leaving your body. Exhaustion is the toll you must pay to build armor. You must push your physical vessel to the absolute razor-edge limit so that you can meet the dark, untamed parts of yourself that only appear in the presence of agony. When you are trapped under a barbell that threatens to crush your chest, or when you are on mile 10 of a grueling run and your joints are screaming for you to stop, all your modern, superficial anxieties vanish. You are reduced to pure, unadulterated existence. In that fiery crucible, you burn away the thick layers of societal conditioning and uncover the raw, unbreakable iron of your true nature. Rule 1 demands that you bleed the weakness out. Make your body an instrument, a weapon, and a fiercely faithful servant to a sovereign mind. Only then are you ready for the next battle. Brutal rule number 2, slaughter your inner victim, rebuilding the mind. Once you have reclaimed dominion over your body, you must turn your attention to the most dangerous battlefield of all, your mind. The second brutal rule is this: you are not a victim. Your suffering is your own fault. Read that again, and let it burn. In 2026, the highest cultural currency is victimhood. We live in a society that rewards people for finding new and creative ways to be offended, traumatized, and oppressed by trivialities. We have built a culture that tells you that if you are unhappy, it is your parents' fault, the government's fault, the economy's fault, or the fault of some systemic injustice. Stoicism completely obliterates this pathetic narrative. Epictetus was literally a slave. His master, Epictetus, once tortured him by twisting his leg in an iron maiden. As the bone bent, Epictetus calmly looked at his master and said, "If you keep turning, you will break the bone." When the bone snapped, Epictetus did not scream. He simply said, "I told you it would break." He spent the rest of his life walking with a crutch. Did he spend his remaining days writing manifestos about how unfair the world was? Did he demand reparations from the universe? No. He stated, "Disease is an impediment to the body, but not to the will, unless the will itself chooses. Lameness is an impediment to the leg, but not to the will." Compare Epictetus's broken leg to what ruins your day. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Your Wi-Fi drops during a meeting. Someone leaves a negative comment on your social media. And you let these meaningless, microscopic events dictate your emotional state. You hand over the keys to your mental kingdom to absolute strangers and random circumstances. To rebuild your mind, you must fiercely embrace the dichotomy of control. This is the cornerstone of Stoic psychology. You must draw a harsh, unforgiving line down the center of your life. On one side are the things you control: your thoughts, your beliefs, your actions, your choices. On the other side are the things you do not control: the past, the weather, the economy, what other people think of you, how other people behave, and even your own mortality. The brutal rule dictates that you must slaughter your inner victim by taking 100% ownership of your reactions. When Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of Rome, was betrayed by his most trusted general, Avidius Cassius, who started a civil war against him, Mason didn't rage. He didn't throw a tantrum about the unfairness of betrayal. He marched his army to meet Cassius, but told his soldiers that he hoped to capture the traitor alive so that he could forgive him, thereby demonstrating to the world how to handle treachery with virtue. He viewed the betrayal not as a tragedy, but as an opportunity to practice philosophy. You must adopt this exact framework. The word unfair must be eradicated from your vocabulary. Unfair is a word for children. The universe does not operate on fairness. It operates on cause and effect, chaos and order. When a storm destroys your roof, the storm was not out to get you. It was simply raining. When a colleague steals your credit at work, they are simply acting out of their own flawed, selfish nature. It is entirely your choice whether you are harmed by these events. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." Lucian had to learn this the hard way. His department at work was suddenly downsized, and he lost his job. His initial reaction was the modern default: absolute, blinding rage mixed with crippling self-pity. He spent a week drinking, cursing his boss, and complaining to anyone who would listen about how the system was rigged. He felt entirely justified in his misery. But misery, no matter how justified, is a useless emotion. It does not pay the rent. It does not rewrite the past. It only poisons the future. Lucian eventually remembered the Stoic texts he had begun reading. He looked in the mirror and realized he was playing the role of a pathetic extra in his own life. He had surrendered his power to a corporate executive he didn't even respect. He applied rule number 2. He stopped complaining. He sat down at his desk and reframed the narrative. I do not control the economy. I do not control corporate restructuring. What do I control? I control my resume. I control my work ethic. I control my attitude. Instantly, the paralyzing anxiety dissolved, replaced by a cold, calculating focus. Slaughtering the inner victim means accepting that nobody is coming to save you. There is no cavalry on the horizon. If your life is a mess, it is up to you to clean it up. If you are out of shape, it is your fault. If you are broke, it is your responsibility to fix it. Even if a tragedy happens to you that is genuinely not your fault, a car accident, a terminal illness, the loss of a loved one, it is still 100% your responsibility to decide how you carry that burden. Your mind is a fortress. Right now the gates are wide open. Barbarians, in the form of media panic, toxic people, and your own lazy excuses, are wandering in and setting fire to the courtyards. You must pull up the drawbridge. You must stand on the battlements of your own consciousness and ruthlessly defend your inner peace. Let the world burn outside. Let people gossip. Let the economy fluctuate. Let the obstacles mount. A Stoic mind looks at an obstacle and smiles. As Marcus Aurelius famously noted, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Every time someone disrespects you, they are giving you a free training session in emotional control. Every time you fail, life is giving you a masterclass in resilience. When you stop seeing yourself as a victim to whom bad things happen and start seeing yourself as a warrior to whom challenges are presented, your entire reality shifts. You become bulletproof. You become dangerous. Brutal rule number 3. Love the fate that breaks you, rebuilding the heart. You have hardened your body. You have fortified your mind against the petty grievances of daily life. But there is a final, deeper fortress that must be secured. It is the core of your humanity, your heart. The third brutal rule is this: you must not merely endure the fate that breaks you, you must learn to love it. In the year 2026, the modern heart is chronically fragile. We have become terrified of deep, agonizing emotion. When a relationship fails, when a loved one dies, when a lifelong dream is crushed into dust, our culture offers two cowardly escape routes: toxic positivity or bitter nihilism. We either slap a fake smile on our faces and pretend everything is fine, or we collapse into a dark hole of cynicism, declaring that love is a scam, life is pointless, and hoping for nothing is the safest way to live. We medicate our grief. We swipe away our loneliness. We drown our heartbreak in a sea of digital noise. Stoicism demands a radically different approach. It demands a heart of roaring fire. The Stoics did not invent the phrase amor fati, a Latin term translating to a love of fate, but they lived its essence. Later popularized by the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, amor fati is the ultimate, most brutal test of the human spirit. It is the radical acceptance of everything that happens to you, both the beautiful and the terrifying. It is the conscious decision to look at the wreckage of your life, the betrayal of your spouse, the diagnosis from your doctor, or the casket of your best friend, and say, "I didn't want this, but I accept it, and I will use it." Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. A weak fire is extinguished by a handful of dirt, but a roaring, massive bonfire? If you throw dirt, logs, trash, or toxic waste into a bonfire, the fire does not complain. It consumes the obstacle and uses it as fuel to burn even hotter, even brighter. Your heart must become that bonfire. Let us return to Lucian. He had mastered his mornings with freezing water. He had conquered his mind when he lost his job, pivoting with cold logic to build a new career. He felt invincible. But life, in its infinite chaotic wisdom, does not care about your morning routine. It will test you where you are most vulnerable. A year after he began his Stoic journey, Lucian's fiancée left him. There was no dramatic fight, no singular villainous act he could point his anger toward. She simply sat him down on a Tuesday evening, looked at him with hollow eyes, and told him she no longer loved him. She packed her bags, walked out the door, and took the entire future Lucian had envisioned with her. For the first time since his awakening, Lucian's Stoic armor cracked. You cannot logic your way out of a broken heart. The pain was absolute, physical, and suffocating. His chest literally ached. He lay on the floor of his empty apartment, the silence ringing in his ears, completely paralyzed by the void she left behind. The temptation to revert to his old self was overwhelming. The alcohol cabinet was right there. The victim narrative was waiting to wrap him in a warm, miserable blanket. Why did she do this to me? I wasn't enough. I'll never trust anyone again. But rule number 3 requires you to stand in the fire. Lucian did not reach for the bottle. He did not download a dating app to numb the sting with cheap validation. Instead, he forced himself to sit up. He looked at the empty space in his living room, and he spoke out loud to the empty air. Amor fati. He chose to love the heartbreak. He realized that to curse the pain was to curse the love that preceded it. To demand a life without grief is to demand a life without connection. Lucian embraced the agony because it was proof that he was human. proof that he had dared to care deeply about another soul. He took the agonizing, restless energy of his grief and threw it into the furnace of his own development. When you love your fate, you stop wishing for a different past. You stop bargaining with reality. The ancient Stoic Chrysippus likened humans to a dog tied to a moving cart. The cart represents fate. You can either run alongside the cart joyfully, moving in harmony with the direction the universe is pulling you, or you can dig your paws into the dirt, whine, fight, and be violently dragged along the gravel anyway. Either way, the cart is moving. To rebuild your heart, you must stop resisting the pull of the cart. If you have been betrayed, say thank you for the lesson in human nature. If you have failed miserably at a business, say thank you for the destruction of your arrogance. If you are grieving a profound loss, say thank you for the privilege of having had something so beautiful that its absence shatters you. Do not let the modern world turn your heart to ice. Cynicism is easy. It is the defense mechanism of a coward who is too afraid to get hurt again. Stoicism is not about having a heart of stone. It is about having a heart so vast, so open, and so relentlessly strong that it can absorb the absolute worst the world has to offer and still continue to pump blood, still continue to love, and still continue to find beauty in the brutal chaos of existence. Love the fate that breaks you, because the version of you that puts the pieces back together will be infinitely stronger than the version that existed before the shatter. We have reached the culmination of the journey. You have bled the weakness from your physical vessel, forging a body that serves your will rather than dictating it. You have slaughtered your inner victim, realizing that the narrative of unfairness is a poison you willingly drink. You have learned to love the fate that breaks you, transforming your heart into a roaring bonfire that consumes betrayal, grief, and failure, turning them all into light and heat. But isolated disciplines are not enough. How does this manifest in the chaotic, hyper-connected, and deeply distracted landscape of 2026? How do you bind these three brutal rules together to integrate the body, mind, and heart into a singular, unstoppable force? You must weld them together with the ultimate, most terrifying, and most liberating Stoic truth of all: memento mori. Remember that you must die. The modern world goes to extraordinary, almost comical lengths to hide death from you. We have sterilized it. We disguise the aging process behind digital filters, synthetic surgeries, and endless streams of anti-aging supplements. In 2026, the obsession with extending life has paradoxically made people forget how to actually live it. We live our daily routines as if we have an infinite, unending bank account of days. This deep-seated delusion of immortality is the silent architect of all your misery. It is the root cause of your procrastination, your unspoken truths, your petty grudges, and your mountains of wasted potential. Seneca wrote with piercing clarity, "You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire. Look honestly at how you spend your time. You scroll endlessly through digital feeds, arguing with faceless strangers over trivial political debates that will be forgotten by tomorrow. You spend hours agonizing over what a coworker thinks of your shoes or how a text message was phrased. You put off your deepest ambitions, your profoundest apologies, and your greatest adventures for a mythical land called someday. Someday, when you have more money. Someday, when the economy settles. Someday, when you feel ready. There is no someday. There is only this fleeting, razor-thin sliver of the present moment and the absolute, uncompromising certainty of your impending death. To become the sovereign individual, the undisputed master of your own modern forge, you must keep the spectre of death sitting firmly on your shoulder. This is not morbid, depressing, or cynical. It is the ultimate source of illumination. When you truly, deeply realize that your heart will beat its final beat, perhaps 50 years from now, perhaps tomorrow afternoon on your commute home, the trivialities of life instantly evaporate like mist over a volcano. Let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day. The one who puts the finishing touches on their life each day is never short of time. Seneca Lucian, now fully integrated and forged in the fire of these disciplines, walks through the world as an entirely different species of human. He is a glitch in the modern matrix. He is not free from pain. No one is. But he is absolutely free from suffering. He still wakes up at 4:30 a.m. to step into a freezing shower, but he no longer does it out of a sheer, grinding test of willpower. He does it because he refuses to waste the brief, miraculous consciousness he has been granted on sleep he does not need. His body moves differently now. It is a weapon, tightly coiled, capable, and quiet. His posture reflects a man who carries his own weight and refuses to lean on the world. The true test of his integration comes during a catastrophic crisis at his new technology firm. It is a Tuesday afternoon when the central servers completely collapse, taking millions of dollars of client data offline. The office instantly descends into a state of primal chaos. Telephones are screaming, executives are sprinting down the hallways, faces flushed with panic, barking contradictory orders and searching desperately for someone to blame. The air in the room is thick with hyperventilation and the raw electric scent of fear. Lucien sits at his desk, the eye of the hurricane. His mind, rigorously conditioned by the dichotomy of control, bypasses the panic entirely. He does not yell. He does not complain about the faulty hardware or the incompetence of the vendors. In a fraction of a second, his internal algorithm sorts the reality before him. I do not control the servers that have already crashed. I do not control the furious clients currently dialing our numbers. I do not control my managers screaming. What do I control? I control my breathing. I control the deployment of the backup nodes. I control the clarity of my communication. While his colleagues are paralyzed by the worst-case scenarios playing out in their imaginations, Lucien simply executes the next correct action. He begins typing, his heart rate resting at a cool, rhythmic pace. He speaks softly but with absolute authority, directing his team with cold, calculating precision. They look at him with a mixture of awe and profound confusion. They do not understand that Lucien has already mentally simulated and conquered the absolute worst-case scenario before he even drank his morning coffee. He had already accepted the possibility of losing his job, of the company going bankrupt, of total ruin. Because he had already visited the worst outcome in his mind, the reality held no power to terrify him. And when the workday ends, this cold efficiency does not make him a robot. Because he operates on amor fati, his heart is completely open. When he meets someone new, he loves fiercely and openly, utterly unburdened by the crippling, modern fear of future heartbreak. He knows that if the relationship eventually ends in tragedy, betrayal, or death, he will love that fate too. He knows he has the internal architecture to withstand any storm. You stand at this exact crossroads right now. You can close this text, retreat to your comfortable couch, open another tab, and let the algorithm lull you back into a soft, meaningless coma. You can continue to be a victim of your biology, a slave to your fleeting emotional impulses, and a hostage to your environment. You can go back to sleep, or you can step into the forge. Rebuilding your mind, body, and heart is not a 30-day corporate wellness challenge. It is not a weekend retreat you post on social media. It is a lifelong, brutal, magnificent war against your own entropy. It requires you to be the hammer, striking down on your own flaws, your own laziness, and your own excuses with unforgiving, relentless precision. It requires you to be the anvil, bearing the unimaginably heavy blows of fate, betrayal, and tragedy without shattering. And it requires you to be the fire, consuming every obstacle, every failure, and every tear, transforming them into light and heat to guide your way forward. The year is 2026. The world has never been softer, more distracted, or more terrified of its own shadow. Be the iron. Be the fire. Embrace the sheer brutality of discipline, for it is the only true path to freedom. Your life is ticking away this very second. The sand in your hourglass is emptying, and you cannot turn it over. Do not go to your grave as a soft, untested creature who only survived because the modern world kept them wrapped in bubble wrap. Go out there and become a force of nature. Stop running from the storm. Become the storm. The fire has been lit, but the forge only works if you stay in it. If these 3 brutal Stoic rules woke something up inside you, do not let that energy dissipate. Like this video to carve your commitment into the algorithm. Share it with the one person you know who is settling for a soft, average life and needs this wake-up call. And subscribe with notifications on. We are building a tribe of iron minds in a fragile world. Stay relentless. Stay stoic. I will see you in the next one.